to Broadband Breakfast Live Online for Wednesday, September 16th, 2020. I'm Drew Clark with Broadband Breakfast. Very happy to welcome you to this discussion. We've been, for the past several weeks, having a series, we call it Champions of Broadband, and we've had many wonderful guests with an incredible background and legacy, if you will, of involvement on broadband issues. We've had Mignon Clyburn, the former acting chair and commissioner at the FCC, Jim Baller, who's dealt with municipal broadband issues for many, many years. We've had Tom Hazlett, professor at Clemson University, and we're going to have more great guests, including Rob McDowell, another former FCC chair or commissioner, excuse me, as well as Sonny McPeak, who heads up the California Emerging Technology Fund, a very innovative government-focused but public-private organization on broadband and the digital divide in California. This event today is in some ways both a merger of the Champions of Broadband and a preview for Broadband Breakfast, or I should say for Broadband Communities Conference that's coming up, the Broadband Communities Summit, which has a great history, and we're going to talk about that with our two guests just now, will be a virtual event next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of September. And the Broadband Communities Summit is an event that I've had a long history of involvement with. And so I'm very, very happy to welcome our two guests today, Barbara DeGarmo, the CEO of Broadband Communities, and Masha Zager, the editor of Broadband Communities magazine. And they'll be speaking with us about the upcoming event, but I hope also they'll be true champions of broadband and speak to some of the great legacy that Broadband Communities has done and participated in. So without much further ado, I do want to, though, encourage you to share this event with others and to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And most importantly, we want you to get you to register for the Broadband Communities Conference. And we'll be talking about that with our two guests, who I will now put up on the screen, Barbara DeGarmo and Masha Zager. Thank you so much for joining us, Barbara and Masha. Barbara, where are you coming to us from right now?
I live in New York City. I actually live up in the Bronx and along the Hudson River. So occasionally we do have a commuter railroad that goes out at the bottom of our apartment buildings. So if that enters into the conversation, so be it. I can't control Metro North.
Well, one of the things we've learned while doing this Broadband Breakfast Live Online for the past 6 months is you have to be accepting of interruptions, irregularities, kids knocking on doors, interruptions in broadband connections, because that's part of the life that we're dealing with the pandemic and how broadband can react to the pandemic. Thanks so much for being with us, Barbara. Let's actually thank Masha for being with us. Where are you coming to us from, Masha?
I'm in upstate New York, about 100 miles north of Barbara, where it should be relatively quiet, but one never knows.
Well, wonderful, wonderful. Let's turn to you first, Barbara. Tell us a little bit about what Broadband Communities is, both the magazine and the annual summit that is about to be upon us. So let's give you the floor for a couple minutes and have you tell us about this organization that your late husband and yourself have really done an incredible job of over the past many years.
Okay, so Broadband Communities, we take a really broad definition of a community. So it could be your apartment building like I live in. It could be your house. It could be a planned community. It can be a whole city like New York. But our whole purpose is sort of to spread the gospel of the importance of high-speed, ultra high-speed connections. And I think, it's become a lot easier to spread that gospel in the last few months, where all of us are working and living in commuting, doing everything we're doing at home and hopefully on a high-speed connection so that we can do it. We have basically a magazine that Masha is editor of that comes out 7 times a year. And we have most years we have 2 conferences, one that's in the springtime that, sorry, that's my dog. It's like, and that is the summit. Stop. And a smaller one that concentrates on broadband and economic development that's usually in the fall. So that one, 2020, we will not have. But first, we were all set to be in Houston in April, and then we were all set to be in Houston in August, and now we're all set to be just online next week.
Except that now it will happen online, and I know it happened because we've been producing content for it, along with many other great discussions. Let's actually show the magazine here and turn to Masha for a moment. Tell us a little bit about the magazine, Masha, and I'm going to show it on the screen so you all can see it. But tell us a little bit about its history and its role and what you do for the magazine, Masha.
Okay, well, this is our forthcoming issue. The magazine in its current incarnation, 2004, when Scott DeGarmo bought an existing magazine that had focused primarily on what are called private cable operators who provide cable as opposed to franchised operators, private, mostly apartment communities. Scott was very excited about the possibility of fiber to the home. And he thought he'd have a ready-made audience in the private cable operators. As it turned out, they were not quite ready to think about fiber to the home, although nowadays many of them are doing it. But that's still one of our major audiences, both for the magazine and for the conference. As time went on, we sort of followed the development of fiber to the home as many different types of operators began to implement it. First, it was real estate developers and their technology subsidiaries building it in planned unit developments, and then the rural telcos who were able, from the USF, they were basically on a cost plus basis at that point. So when they came to upgrade their systems, they started going to all fiber. And then, of course, Verizon began the Fios rollout in 2005 or 6. And then we started seeing a proliferation of other types of organizations, the other incumbents, many municipalities, partnerships between municipalities and private operators, even some wireless operators started turning into fiber to the home providers, and electric co-ops in the last few years. So we've sort of been following all the twists and turns of the industry and talking about who's building fiber to the home, why they are, and how they get financed, and what the regulations are that either promote or discourage them. And most important, I think from our point of view, most important is what they can do for communities, both in terms of, in some cases, allowing remote communities to even stay alive and in existence, Thrive, being a profit-making enterprise for real estate developers in certain cases, and all of this because fiber to the home networks and ultra broadband networks generally make it possible for people to live, all of which, as Barbara mentioned, has come into very clear focus this year. They permit not only telecommuting, but home businesses, telemedicine, distance education, all these things that were dreams 15 years ago when we started covering this are in existence today and doing very well. What's been exciting about being with the magazine for all these years is seeing how this field has developed and has lived up to and even exceeded the original promise that Scott saw for it in 2004.
Thank you. That's a wonderful summary of a lot of the history, which really does tie into where Broadband Communities is today. And I appreciate your kind of linking that private cable operator tradition to the fiber to the home, which again seemed exciting 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and now is really quite common now. Not necessarily commonplace, because there's still a lot of people who don't have fiber to the home. But it kind of leads me to ask a question of both of you, Barbara and Masha. Are you saying you kind of favor fiber over other technologies? How do you kind of address or adapt those who say, well, wireless is going to have to be a component of the solution too? Let me kind of offer that off to both Barbara and to Masha for your reaction about, are you a technology specific or maybe that's good if you are. I just want to see how that affects the coverage and the focus of the conference and the magazine.
I think whatever works, whatever gets you what you need is. We're obviously even with the wireless, you have to have a fiber backbone. But we've had people, we had our last conference, we had one of the Google guys, the Tesla guys, whoops, with the Elon Musk, SpaceX, excuse me, talking about what they were going to be doing. So there's for my way of thinking, there is no one set solution. So, I actually live in an apartment building, so I have a cable. I'm on DOCSIS. I don't have fiber.
I'm in the same situation myself. We have certainly published in the magazine articles about all kinds of technology approaches, especially in multifamily housing, where many things are possible and can provide good broadband. And we've certainly talked a lot about wireless, at least as a temporary, if not permanent, solution in rural areas where it's really difficult to get fiber. So, Barbara, I agree with Barbara that it's not a one size fits all, but the focus of the magazine consistently over the years has been to show people that the fiber to the home is possible and practical and economical and profitable, even in many different circumstances, which seems obvious today, but it was kind of a radical viewpoint 15 or 16 years ago.
Yeah. At Broadband Breakfast, our motto is better broadband, better lives. And by that, we mean that it's not just what you can do, not just that you can do broadband, but what you can do with it. And Masha, you kind of referred to this a little bit earlier. I'd love it if Barbara and Masha, you could speak to how you've tried to open up the impact of broadband in the summit, particularly with these regional summits. Barbara, that you started about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, maybe, and maybe just speak a little bit about this event. I mean, it really is, the watering hole for people in this fiber/broadband space. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit, Barbara, about the origin and development of the conference and the summit.
Masha's been in this longer than I have. I mean, seeing as I sort of had I had the spouse's role of just listening to my husband's dream as he managed to dream it and get us all involved. It's been interesting to me, though, to see the when I got involved 5 years ago when Scott passed away. We were just trying to pull in like the electric co-ops, and it was like, oh, they're never they don't want to go for this. They're too conservative and stuff. And now, I mean, there are several hundred, right? I think that are offering high-speed broadband off it,
or at least planning, yeah,
or at least planning to. I think Masha, I mean, the idea behind the economic development ones was that was an important aspect to the whole reason why people or communities would want broadband. And the idea was to focus on move it around and focus on a place that had a good story. So the original one was Danville, Virginia, that had developed a fiber municipal network using money that they had received from the tobacco settlement. And it's just, it took off and it's gone from there. So it's been interesting. I mean, one thing that I think in terms of this year's virtual summit is that we all of us here at Broadband Communities, we all work virtually and we always have. So we appreciate the fact that our attendees are going to be missing seeing each other, but we're missing seeing each other too, because that's the only time of the year when all of us are together is when we are, when we're at one of our conferences. So we can sort of relate to the people that say, oh, well, is it going to be as good? How can it possibly be as good as when you're all right there together in a room and all the buzz is going on? But we certainly hope it will be, and there are, benefits and drawbacks to any way that you're going to put it on. But I think I've sort of strayed off what your original question was.
Oh, not at all. I've actually got the agenda up here on the screen that I've now shared with people. Why don't I turn it over to you to kind of talk a little bit about what are some of the high level points that you'd like to communicate? What should people expect? And most importantly, how can people register to attend the event that's happening next week, Barbara?
Right. Well, that was exactly what I was going to first start with. You can register, and you can also subscribe to Broadband Communities Magazine at the same time off of our website, which is bbcmag.com. So BB Broadband Communities, but BBC, and mag like magazine.com. And if you go there, you'll see, the events. You'll see a place to get on to the program, just like this. And hopefully if you're not a subscriber, you'll become a subscriber to the magazine at the same time. It's free. The conference is not free, but it's not terribly expensive. Some of those who've been coming in the past will find that some of it is very familiar. So we usually start off with sort of a session that begins with, well, where are we now and what's been going on and what do you need to know? And that is exactly where we'll start with the here, our experts get us up to speed on broadband matters. And then we also have two big sessions that are running at this on the first day, which is CLIck, which is the Coalition of Local Local Internet Choice.
Exactly.
Like, okay. And then Drew is running in the orange. Drew is running most of the days conference on digital, a mini conference kind of on digital infrastructure. And then we also are very pleased this year that we're partnering up with the NMHC, which is the National Multifamily Housing Council, and they're helping us with our multifamily side of the track. And they're going to be starting off with a town hall that's sort of like a real fast group of different people and different subjects on what you can expect to find through the rest of the program. So
can I just stop you there for a second, Barbara? Again, those who attend and watch Broadband Breakfast Live Online will know about the digital infrastructure investment event. But tell us more about the National Multifamily Housing Council and the Coalition for Local Internet Choice. What's the kind of purpose of those organizations, and how does it fit into broadband communities?
Well, I think that a CLIck is, the name basically says what it is, a Coalition for Local Internet Choice. And they will usually put on like a half-day seminar. Sometimes we do it at the day before. Usually we have a workshop session on the day before we actually formally begin, and CLIck is one of those that participates in those workshops. But this year we've cut a day off of the normal programming, and their focus this year, CLICK's, is going to be on partnerships and local internet choice. The NMHC is sort of the premier group that in the multifamily housing area. So they have every year, they have a bunch of different conferences on everything from broadband and student housing is one of them, but their big one is called OPTEC. So it's technology and broadband in multifamily housing. And so anybody that's all the major developers are at their conference, and we hope they'll bring as many of them along with them to our conference as well. We usually also, one of the early sessions that we'll have is called Great Communities, where we focus in on, generally they're ones that we've run in the magazine, because we have a regular recurring piece that's called Property of the Month, and they're all really great communities that you would like to live in, and we like to start with that because it's sort of like this is the ultimate thing that you would find yourself if you were living in an ultra connected community. This is the kind of community you'd be living in, and this is the kind of things you will have. Can
I just jump in? That's actually a feature that one sees quite frequently in Broadband Communities magazine. You'll feature properties and communities. I'm wondering if, Masha, you'd like to add anything about those communities? How does that tie into the kind of the vision that you're communicating in your summit and in your magazine?
How did the property of the month feature tie in?
Sure. Is that kind of the same piece? Is a property? Is this kind of building off the same aspect that Barbara's been speaking about with the multifamily housing?
Yes, although the great communities and even the properties of the month can include more than just apartments. Sometimes they're whole large developments or redevelopments. Sometimes they're hotels. I mean, they can be very varied. Often planned unit developments, but the great community session kind of grew out of the property of the month because readers were telling us that was a feature that they read, as some people have put it, religiously. So we figured if it had that kind of a following, people would want a chance to actually meet and interact with those who had been responsible for conceiving and executing those great communities, and it has turned out to be a very popular and long running feature of the conference. So, and two of those two of the great communities in the session this year, in this next week's conference, one was a property of the month, and the other one was featured in another just article in the magazine. So generally we love success stories. So even in other than the great communities session, we have a lot of stories being told throughout the conference of those who have successfully connected their communities, often against great odds and in very creative ways. So I think that's something that those who are struggling to get better broadband or bring better broadband to their communities, that's something that they need to hear and really appreciate hearing, is how it can be done.
Yeah, no, wonderful and excellent. Again, I'm a huge fan, as you know, of both your magazine and your conference. I've been coming. I think I've only missed one over the past 13 years, Barbara and Masha, and I obviously think you're doing an incredible job in organizing different communities that are very interested in high capacity broadband. Now, of course, because of the pandemic, we're not meeting in person, we're meeting virtually. And I'm wondering, Barbara, if you could just speak a little bit to the virtual nature of the event, because everyone's sort of doing conferences and virtual events a little bit differently. And obviously we've recorded some things for the session next week. Is it all going to be pre-recorded? What's it going to be like for the attendee who registers to attend? Are they going to have live comments? What could you give us a preview, Barbara, for what the conference will be like for people when they join in next week?
Okay, so we've tried to make it as interactive as possible. So although we have pre-recorded almost all of the sessions, just because Nancy McCain, who's our conference director, figured she would have a heart attack if we tried to do all of them live, which probably would have it's probably true, because even when we were recording them, sometimes, I know one guy sorry, one guy. It was on a session we're doing on hybrid, on fiber versus hybrid versus wireless, and he's a wireless provider out in rural Wyoming, I guess. And he was actually out on one of his towers and fixing something, up until about 10 minutes after the session had begun when he finally arrived. So, better to have it pre-recorded and that going on than having it live and him not actually being there. But there will be several that are live. But all of them, they do have a chat capability as you're going along. So you will see something like this, but also down the side, you can put in, you can put in your questions. And we hope to have at least one or more people from each session that's actually there when this, on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday when their session is going on, that will be answering those questions. Otherwise, everything is also, one of the benefits of having a virtual event is that it's all recorded. So if you miss something, or if there are 2 sessions that are going on or 3 that are going on, and you wanted to really be in every one of them, and when when it's a live event, you have to be rude and get up and leave and go and open and close a door in some other session that's already going on. This time you can just log on. You can afterwards and watch, and the event will be posted on the site for 2 months after the summit is over. So there's a chance for everybody to catch up. And
that's great. No, I mean, that's certainly something and sometimes I'll bring a phone in, I'll record a session while I'm in another session. So
yes, right.
That's what I've done. I won't have to do that. Well, let's go ahead and go back to the screen with the event that's happening. And Barbara and Masha, feel free to join in. We're here on Tuesday, and now that we know that you can join in at any time within that 2-month window, tell us what you're looking forward to, Barbara, from the event next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, as well as you, Masha. What are some of the things you're most excited to learn about and participate in?
I think I'm most looking forward to being done.
Being over.
If I have to confess, if I have to really actually be honest and true with you, no. I'm just I'm interested in it. There's always new things and stuff that you hadn't thought about before. I have watched a few of the sessions that have already been recorded. I haven't watched everything. I think Masha might have been watching more, because also one of the benefits is that we write up, highlights for the magazine. So now it is a little easier, I guess, to go and watch. And,
we get a sneak peek. Yeah.
We get a sneak peek, and she doesn't have to actually be in the session taking notes.
Well, tell us about some of these events on Tuesdays. You got telecom provider update number 2 on COVID's impact, telecom provider update number 3 on disruption, and then a general session on the pandemic tech and telecom accelerator. What would you say about these sessions, or your concluding general session on Tuesday? Let's just kind of finish out on that. And Masha or Barbara, do you have anything you'd like to?
The one you're showing right now, roadmap to creating a gigabit city, I think is shaping up to be a very exciting session. It's about
going to be live, actually.
Okay, it's going to be the focus on Springfield, Missouri, which was a very, very early municipal fiber deployment, but it was business only, and they've now come up with a really interesting plan to wire the whole city, where the city is building the conduit and it's leasing it to Google Fiber to build out, and potentially others, to build out fiber networks through the city's conduits. So there's they're going to talk about both the part very innovative methods that they're using to to build out and design and build out the network. So that's got as you can see, a bunch of people involved in that session. So
no, Sounds excellent. And Heather Burnett Gold, of course, used to be the head of the Fiber Broadband Association, is
Right.
a consultant with HBD Strategies. Have you done events with the Fiber Broadband Association, Barbara and Masha?
Yes, we have. For we partnered with them, or they partnered with us, I should say, on the for a couple of years on our economic development conference. And I mean, we usually, there'll be, I don't know, Lisa Youngers, who's now the current president, head of the Fiber Broadband Association, will be on one of the click sessions. So, we do trade back and forth a lot. We have a close relationship with them.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let's keep going to Wednesday. We won't go through everything, but as you see, there's 3 different tracks: multifamily track, economic development, editor's choice, which sometimes I feel compelled to point out sometimes is the rural track, right?
Exactly. And
tell us a little
Drew.
about this track, Barbara.
Pardon? The rural, you help develop the rural track, and that's always an important one. We do have a lot of emphasis on our multifamily side. It's what provides sort of the sponsors and the exhibitors that help us pay for this are in. They have a close relationship with the multifamily side too. And then the economic development track, Jim Baller, that you mentioned earlier as one of your broadband champions, he helps us put together that, the track, that
and
the
Masha,
sessions on that track,
choice?
Excuse me.
Is that your track, Masha?
Well, the editor's choice is sort of like the editor's choice is kind of an agreement of those of us on the MPPC.
Editors broadly speaking.
Yes, editors broadly speaking, of just subject matter that maybe we really would like to see covered. I mean, definitely subject matter that we would like to see covered that might not have gotten on one of the other tracks. It's also people come to us. We always ask for white papers and suggestions when we're beginning to put together. So as soon as this one's over, send in your suggestions on what you would like to have covered, because we'll be going right back to work on next spring's summit, which we hope will happen next spring
in Houston.
Back in Houston, where we're all back live. But it's sort of a combination of the ideas that people have sent in to us that we thought, oh, this sounds really interesting, and things that have been in the magazine that were interesting.
Yeah. So let me read a couple of the titles here, and see if that sparks anything that either of you would like to say. So you've got a panel on transforming telehealth on the economic development track. You have connecting the middle mile and last mile on the rural broadband track. You have the Great Reset, community-based ecosystems in the COVID-19 era. Managed Wi-Fi for multifamily track. And then you have more Muni broadband unfamiliar success stories. So these are a couple of the events that you're highlighting. Feel free to kind of jump in. I just wanting to kind of give our watchers a taste of some of the things that will be available at Broadband Communities next week. Do you want to kind of comment on any of these, Masha or Barbara?
Well, they all address basically the hot topics of today. And they're all things that are tremendously promising for broadband and that haven't quite been figured out yet. So managed Wi-Fi is becoming standard now in multifamily housing, because it's a simpler and safer and more robust solution than the traditional. The traditional had their own Wi-Fi system, and they all interfered with each other. But there's still a lot of discussion about how best to do it and how to make it work with all the IoT solutions, the Internet of Things solutions, smart apartments and smart buildings and so forth that both residents and owners are putting in. And this is all, we've been covering this sort of thing for the last few years, but every year we're in a completely different place than we were the year before, and some problems have been solved and new problems have presented themselves. So as the technology develops and as the applications develop, you can see how the potential for these applications is great, but actually figuring out how to do it becomes incredibly more complicated. Then I could have said exactly where, again, the interest has grown, the uses have grown, the technology has grown, and yet it's still as problematic as ever. We're in a different place than we were last year or the year before, but there are still new problems to confront to make the application as beneficial as it could be. And I think that's a general theme with most of these subjects.
Yeah. When people ask either of you
that, even we talk about that, oh, well, we should have different titles for some of these sessions.
Right,
we see session titles year after year, but it's very different every year because always so much has happened since the previous year.
Well, no, that's a great point. And let me kind of come at that same issue from a different angle. When people ask you, is Broadband Communities, the magazine and the conference, more about the infrastructure or more about the application and use of broadband? How do each of you answer that question?
That's a good one. I think it's both. I mean, I don't, what do you think, Masha? You're...
Yeah, right. They're both equally important, and I think our readers really want to know about both of them, and they depend on each other.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I would say personally, I am not a technology person, and I don't understand. I mean, sometimes I don't understand actually what I'm reading, but there's always something that I do want to read. And as Masha said, I like the success stories. I like the ones, and I think that most readers would find that there's always plenty in the magazine and the attendees. There's always plenty at the conference that can interest everybody.
Let's take a few minutes on a particular topic that, of course, is ever present: the coronavirus, COVID-19. I mean, we're talking today because of it. This webcast series is because of it. The event you're having was delayed from a previous event that was going to be in person. It's happening on broadband. How do you expect the coronavirus and broadband's impact on it to be addressed at the summit next week? How is that going to feature into the discussions? And what observations do you have about broadband's role in solving this situation? Masha and Barbara.
Well, I think on the multifamily side, you'll see a lot because they are. I mean, the telecom town hall, which is going to be fast moving ones. There'll be questions and answers with some of the experts where they're talking about exactly that. How did you take care of the fact that suddenly everybody in your apartment building is home at the same time and they're all trying to get online? Did you have problems? Those kinds of things. So how they managed that transition has been very important to them. Telehealth, the other one where you read out the reset, that was originally going to be, we will do one about a telecommuting, and that's really up to that's what that is all going to be about how people have had to transition into. It's no longer can we transition, can we live in rural Vermont and run a business, into this is how we did it, type. I think is what I anticipate is going to happen in a lot of cases.
I will add that I'll add that having previewed some of the recorded sessions, it's not surprisingly, it's hard to get through any session without the panelists reflecting on what the last 6 months has meant for them, and how everything has changed and how they've dealt with the challenges of the pandemic. So it's not just the sessions that are explicitly about that where it comes up, and we found that to be true in the magazine as well. In May, June, we put together a special section directly addressing the pandemic and its relation to broadband. But really, I think every article in that issue ended up addressing that subject because it has been challenging, and so it's such a wake-up call, I think, for the entire country about the necessity of not just broadband, but good enough broadband, better broadband. Drew, you're muted.
It happens to all of us, right? You mute yourself to deal with bandwidth issues, and you get caught. So thank you, Masha. Yes, thank you for giving that additional context. It really is vital, and I appreciate kind of knowing in advance, I guess, a little bit about some of the things that you're going to be addressing in different sessions. I don't want to, curtail you to highlight anything, but I wanted to ask a couple questions about the recent magazine, because there were some great articles, 2 great articles that Masha wrote, and I thought it'd be useful to raise these, if you don't mind, and see if you have any reactions vis-a-vis the summit. This issue on digital town squares that you wrote about, Masha, transforming a connected community into a smart community takes vision along with the technology strategy to turn the vision into reality. Would you mind telling us a little bit about digital town squares, what they are, and how you see those playing out?
Yes, that was a really fun article to write. This is a project being directed by US Ignite, which is, I hope you've had them as part of the
Not yet, but we will.
The broadband champions, so that you will, because they certainly are great broadband champions. It's I guess now a nonprofit organization. It was originally a spin-off from the National Science Foundation and the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, that is championing the development of really high bandwidth applications in communities for the benefit of so this is one aspect of the digital town square, is one aspect of their project, which is called of one of their projects, which is called Smart Gigabit Communities. where they are working with a number of communities. I think it's a couple of dozen by now. Started out with like 9, to develop smart city applications. And the Digital Town Square is an approach to an infrastructure hub that may compensate for gaps in the technology that would be needed to implement those smart city applications. So it may involve robust connections to other nearby cities so that they can do things in conjunction with those other cities. There was an interesting project in Utah where there's a telehealth application that couldn't have been done without this infrastructure, where they're doing and how this works remotely, I'm not sure, but they're doing deep brain stimulation, which is a treatment for Parkinson's and other neurological diseases they're doing on a remote basis. In Eugene, Oregon, they're connecting to other cities so that businesses in Eugene's ability to cooperate with businesses elsewhere in Oregon, elsewhere on the West Coast. So it's essentially made Eugene, Oregon into a high-tech hub, and brought in huge amounts of venture capital into the city. So there are just all kinds of possibilities. So again, this is the sort of success stories that we like to hear about and write about and have in the summit. We're people from Eugene, Oregon, who was involved in setting that up, will be speaking at the summit this year.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great to hear. Well, I want to basically make sure everyone can see how to go to register to the conference. So let's do that, and then we'll kind of go to maybe a closeout thought or two from each of you. So this is Broadband Communities Mag, bbcmag.com. You go there, and you obviously have a variety of features, news, and articles, and then, of course, to the summit. And then right here is the agenda and the register now. Okay, so anything you want to say about registering for the event, and will people be able to register up to the conference even afterwards, Barbara?
They will be. Yes. We will be ready to take your registration whenever you get it to us. So the sooner the better, hopefully. But you just have to register, and you use your own login to get onto the platform, which will be provided to you. I mean,
okay.
we tell you how to do it.
What are you looking forward to besides it being over, Barbara, about the conference? What insights do you hope to gain from doing this virtually?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is the for attendees, the fact that you can, catch up on something that you missed very easily. For our exhibitors and our sponsors, there's a whole lot more information that they will have on the people that were attending than they usually do. But so, I mean, usually they have access to their to their login, their email, and, whatever somebody gives them on a business card. But this way we can actually tell you if you're an exhibitor and you think, this particular session, that looks like the people that are interested in that are the people I'm trying to reach. Well, we will be able to provide them with the name of everybody and the contact information for everybody that was in that session, which we wouldn't have been able to do before. I mean, when it's a live event, we just, you don't have that much digital information on everybody, but now you have all this information. So I think there are benefits to everybody. And I'm looking forward to, I mean, when I've, looked over the agenda, edited the pages, I mean, read and read. Hopefully there aren't too many mistakes still. I kept coming away with the fact that this is going to be a really good program. I think, and I'm not just saying that because I have to say it. I really sincerely believe it.
Well, and I think one of the lessons that certainly people are learning is that it really, and maybe school administrators haven't learned this yet, but it's hard to be in front of a computer screen for 7 hours a day, right?
Right.
Or I should say, to be in front of a TV interactive screen, right? And I think you've kind of judiciously trimmed particular sessions. I say this at my own expense, Barbara, because I know you've trimmed some of my sessions. But
yes,
tell us just a little bit about why you've done that, and what, again, you hope people will take from this event, this kind of marquee event for broadband communities.
Well, we tried to keep it. I mean, we're starting later. The times that you'll see in the agenda are their central time, because that's where our business is actually located in Texas. So everything will be, and generally the conference has been in Texas, so we're used to central time. But we've tried to keep the sessions to less than an hour. We will have Q&As, and we'll be able to continue on afterwards. We have chat rooms where you can go back and, like, the different groups that are involved have their own chat room. So if you want to make an appointment with somebody, or you want to get some conversation going, that we hope to have that happening in the chat room. We'll start out on Tuesday when we begin. We've got a short little video on how to navigate yourself around the platform, but it's pretty, if I can do it, I figure everybody can do it. And so far I've found my way into and out of each of the different rooms that are available. So we've talked all about the program, but we also hope you'll, the people that are listening will go to our exhibitors and our sponsors and their booths and visit them too, because they all have interesting stories. And if you're looking for something, if you're outfitting your city or your town, this is the place to go to find out the cutting edge technology that's existing, and they'll be happy to tell you about it.
Well, we'll let Barbara have the last word, but I want Masha to get your last word in about your thoughts about the conference, and really kind of, again, sort of putting our broadband champion hat on. What's the legacy? What do you hope people will take from Broadband Communities as a conference and as a magazine going forward into the future? So Masha, and then Barbara.
I'm hoping that what people take away, and what they have taken away from past events and the magazine in the past, is that good broadband is not just a dream. It's possible. It can be done. There are ways to do it. There are people who know how to do it. The technology is there. Even the financing is possible. It's really, at this point, it's determination and creativity to get it done.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Barbara, we'll give you the last word on what you sort of see for the future from what has been the ground that's been laid in the past.
Well, I think that, Masha said it well, and also I'd add, this is no longer a luxury. This is a necessity that all of us have to have. And we don't want to leave anybody behind, because that's not the kind of America we want to live in. And this is one of the ways that we can keep everybody, if you're not educated to use technology in a about in 10 or so years, if not already, you're not going to be able to survive, have a very good life. So this is.
Well, thank you very much. We are really looking forward to participating in Broadband Communities next week, and want to invite all of you to go to bbcmag.com to register for the event ahead of next week. Again, I'm Drew Clark with Broadband Breakfast, and encourage you to come back next week at 12 noon, which is not interrupting an event that I'm participating in or that we have running. We'll have our guest for Broadband Breakfast Live Online. That'll be Rob McDowell, former FCC commissioner. And the week after, we'll have Sonny McPeak of the California Emerging Technology Fund. Thanks for being with us, and see you next week, and see you at Broadband Communities. Take care.